Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're looking at a brilliantly simple concept. What if the everyday act of just eating an apple, a peach, or an orange could literally be the blueprint to solving humanity's most overwhelming crises? It sounds like a pretty bold claim, right? Well, we're going to break down a fascinating methodology called fruit eaten, seed sown. It's a grassroots reforestation project that argues the key to our survival is hiding right inside our afternoon snacks. Okay, let's dive right into this. What exactly do global warming, world hunger, and social violence have in common? I mean, they seem like completely separate, insurmountable mountains, don't they? Different causes, different disciplines entirely. But the source material we're unpacking today suggests they are actually deeply, fundamentally interconnected. And more importantly, they share a single, surprisingly accessible solution that we have completely overlooked. Part 1, 3 crises, 1 solution. So here's the thing. Our current global model of overproduction and this hyper-globalized market, it generates a massive amount of CO2. And this doesn't just warm the planet in a vacuum, it triggers this devastating domino effect. The warming climate disrupts natural agricultural cycles, which leads to widespread food scarcity. And that scarcity, that's the spark that fractures communities and ignites conflict. It really comes down to a stark mathematical equation. More hunger inevitably equals more violence. When basic resources dry up and people are starving, social conflict is basically guaranteed to rise. So the logic dictates that if we can solve the food supply issue at a fundamental global level, we will drastically and mathematically reduce social violence across the world. Part 2, the power of plants. So we need a pivot, right? Let's move away from the despair of those interconnected crises and look at a deeply hopeful, kind of elegant aha solution. The answer, according to the project, lies fundamentally in plants. I mean, think about it. They're the source of all food. Even the meat we eat comes from animals fed by plants. And the same goes for a lot of our seafood. They are the absolute foundation of the food web and nature's ultimate carbon capturers. The source emphasizes a really profound truth here. The tree cannot be surpassed by any technology to mitigate global warming. We literally spend billions developing these massive carbon capture machines. But the simple tree? It's already the most advanced technology we possess. Through natural photosynthesis, it perfectly captures excess carbon and releases the oxygen that keeps us all alive. And this brilliantly illustrates our choices. Right now, our current state is driven by dramatic deforestation, which just fuels that destructive cycle of warming, hunger, and violence. But the future state? Aggressive reforestation reverses the whole flow. It means less CO2 in the atmosphere, abundant food literally within arm's reach on fruit-bearing trees, and consequently a steep drop in social violence because communities are actually nourished. Part 3, the school as an engine. But you're probably wondering, who is going to plant all these trees? The source makes a really compelling argument that adult efforts alone simply aren't enough to reforest the earth. We need more hands. The true engines of this massive solution, it's billions of students. Today, a lot of them are taught to just compete in a market that kind of destroys life. But if we shift that focus, those billions of students can be mobilized to cultivate life instead. And this brings us to a hugely empowering aspect of this project: zero financial investment. 100% reused materials. This completely removes the usual economic barriers to large-scale climate action. It shifts the tone entirely away from that overwhelming climate guilt and moves us right into proactive, totally accessible action. Literally any child in any underfunded school in the world can jump in without needing a budget. Part 4, how the project works. Okay, let's zoom in on the micro level here. This text outlines a super specific, practical process for exactly how a young student takes the discarded core of their lunchtime fruit and transforms it into a viable climate solution. This first phase is the seed bank. Step 1, students just eat their fruit and wash the seeds. Step 2, they let those seeds dry on reused paper, glass, or plastic for exactly 8 days. And step 3, they store and carefully label them in used glass jars. It's incredibly simple, highly organized, and it turns everyday waste into a valuable, cataloged resource bank right there inside the classroom. Then we move into the nursery phase. For step 1, students take discarded plastic bottles, cut the tops off, poke a little hole in the base, and fill them with dirt. Step 2, they plant the seeds. And here's where it elegantly integrates right into the curriculum. They actively study natural science as they watch that seed germinate over about 15 days. Finally, step 3, they water the seedling for 15 more days.
At that point, the plants are ready to be planted at the school or even shared with families, which is amazing because it links the school directly to the wider community.
Part 5, the case of Ecuador. Now, you might be thinking this is just a nice, hypothetical idea for a single classroom, but it's not. We're zooming out to look at how this exact methodology has been validated and adopted as active, formal government policy out in the real world. The source specifically highlights Ecuador's Ministry of Education Agreement 0074-09. Article 1 creates a national and provincial commission to coordinate the whole project. Article 2 mandates its implementation in all basic and high school establishments across the entire country. And Article 3 goes straight to the core, incorporating these skills directly into the national educational curriculum. It really proves that a state can successfully weave this kind of ecological methodology right into its educational DNA.
Part 6, a global strategy.
And the vision absolutely doesn't stop in Ecuador. The source text outlines this macro-level movement, where dedicated volunteers take on what they call a beautiful task, diffusing the fruit-eaten, seed-sown methodology to the rest of the globe. And the grassroots demand for this? It's already massive. 277,000. That is the number of signatures on a Change.org petition actively supporting this project. That number instantly validates the public popularity and the widespread demand to see this simple, zero-cost solution scaled up worldwide.
So, to harness all that incredible momentum, there's an organized voluntary strategy in play. First, present the project directly to global embassies. Next, have the methodology formally evaluated by the respective presidents and ministries of education in those nations. The ultimate goal here? To officially incorporate this practice into worldwide educational curriculums, turning local, individual classroom actions into a standardized global educational movement.
Which brings us to a really vital question for you to ponder. What will you do with your next fruit seed? It's a provocative thought, isn't it? The source material we've explored today shows us that the power to mitigate our biggest global crises might literally be sitting right in the palm of your hand, right after your next snack. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to completely rethink some of those small, daily habits.